The ruins of Eldrath Keep rose from the mist like the ribs of a dead god. Jagged spires and shattered towers stretched toward a sky heavy with gray clouds, and moss-covered stone told the tale of a long-lost bastion that had once dared defy Vector. Andrea and the others approached cautiously. The wind howled through broken archways, and strange sigils flickered faintly across the shattered gates. Therion stepped ahead, his expression grim. This is where the first resistance made their final stand, where Vector himself shattered the last line of hope before becoming the Lich King. Catlin traced a holy symbol carved into a fallen statue. So much death. I can still feel their prayers lingering. Bucky adjusted his axe. Let's just find whatever can help us and get out before ghosts decide we're tasty. They passed into the ruins' inner sanctum, finding collapsed walls, shattered weapons, and the bones of warriors who had fought to the last. At the center, buried beneath a collapsed dome, lay a massive stone platform inscribed with concentric circles and arcane runes. "The Circle of Amplification," Therion whispered, "built to channel the sphere's energy." Andrea approached and held up the sphere of Varniel. The runes lit up instantly, glowing with a brilliant azure light. The stone hummed beneath their feet, and the air grew thick with pressure. "It's working," Andrea said, her voice filled with awe. "I can feel it, but it's pulling something in." Suddenly, a blast of shadow magic struck the stonework, shattering part of the circle. A figure stepped from the dark, a death knight, clad in rusted obsidian armor, Vector's sigil glowing across his chest plate. "Fools!" the creature hissed. "You carry what is not meant for mortal hands." Larry stepped forward, sword raised. "Come take it, then." The Death Knight moved with terrifying speed. His blade clashed with Larry's, sparks flying. Another swipe sent Bucky crashing into a column. Andrea tried to cast, but tendrils of anti-magic coiled around her fingers, unraveling the spell. Therion struck with his golden blade, dueling the knight in a flurry of sparks and flame. Catlin summoned divine power to shield Andrea, who pressed the sphere to the platform again. The platform pulsed. The sphere glowed bright. And then a surge of energy exploded outward, casting the Death Knight back into the rubble. His armor cracked. His helm shattered. He snarled, trying to rise. But this time, Andrea's magic found its mark. "Varniel's light!" she cried, unleashing a bolt of pure, radiant force. The Death Knight disintegrated, his scream echoing through the keep as his form was unmade. Silence returned. Andrea collapsed to her knees. "It's done. For now." Therion knelt beside her. "You awakened it. The sphere is fully charged. But now Vector will come. He'll feel its light." Larry pulled Bucky to his feet. "Then we bring the fight to him." Catlin looked toward the horizon, where storm clouds swirled unnaturally. "The final battle is near." Andrea rose, sphere glowing in her hands. "Then let's end this." The sun never rose the next morning. Instead, The sky above Kleavin churned with black clouds as if the heavens themselves recoiled from the darkness crawling across the land. At the edge of the world, Vector's fortress loomed, an obsidian tower surrounded by rivers of molten shadow, jagged walls, and a growing army of death. The resistance had rallied. Elves, dwarves, human battalions, and the remnants of the first resistance stood shoulder to shoulder with Andrea and her party. They had come not for survival, but for victory. The sphere of Varniel, now radiant with celestial power, pulsed in Andrea's hands. It was time. At the front lines stood Andrea, Larry, Bucky Buck, Catlin, and Therion. Behind them, horns rang out, the battle cry of those who would not go quietly into darkness. The gates of Vector's fortress opened, and from the abyss stepped an undead dragon, once a mighty red worm, now a creature of decay and fury, its wings shredded yet still capable of flight. Its eyes burned with green fire, and its ribcage pulsed with necrotic energy. The creature bellowed, the sound shaking the sky. "He's mocking us," Larry muttered. "No," Andrea said, eyes narrowed. "He's afraid. This is his desperation." The battle erupted. Legions of skeletons surged forward, clashing with resistance warriors. Banshees screamed through the sky, their wails turning men to ash. Ghouls and wights poured from Vector's fortress gates like blood from a wound. Larry charged into the fray, swinging his blade in wide arcs, mowing through skeletons like wheat. Bucky roared beside him, his axe dripping with cursed marrow. Catlin raised her mace to the sky. "Light! Burn them!" A wave of divine energy rippled across the field, incinerating a pack of ghouls and halting the advance of a bone giant. Andrea took to higher ground, the sphere of Varniel floating above her palms. "Now!" she screamed, unleashing a blinding burst of energy that ripped through undead ranks and melted Vector's spellbound constructs. And then the undead dragon struck. It swooped from above, its corrupted flame coating the battlefield. Dozens of warriors vanished in fire and smoke. It slammed into the resistance lines, scattering soldiers like ragdolls. Andrea focused the sphere's power. "I'll hold it back. Therion, we need you." The golden warrior stood unmoving, staring at the dragon with calm fury. But he said nothing. Not yet. The undead dragon turned toward Andrea, mouth opening wide. Inside its chest, a sickly green heart beat, a magical core of death. It roared again and launched forward. Andrea raised the sphere and unleashed a beam of radiant destruction, striking the dragon mid-flight. The impact tore open its rotted scales and sent it spiraling into the ground. But it rose again, unyielding. Therion stepped forward. Not yet the dragon. Not yet the savior. But something stirred in him. The battle raged. Catlin stood with Andrea, her magic shielding the mage from the dragon's acidic breath. Larry and Bucky leapt onto the beast's back, hacking at its wings and ribs. The undead dragon shrieked and spun, launching them off. Bucky crashed into a crumbled siege engine, dazed but alive. "I'm tired of this," he roared. "Why won't you die?" The dragon lunged one final time at Andrea, and Therion moved. He stepped into the path of the attack. For a moment, time stood still. His eyes, always bright, now burned with golden fear. He looked back at Andrea. "Hold the line. I'll end this." With a burst of light, his form began to shift. Wings unfolded. Scales shimmered. His humanoid form tore away, revealing a massive ancient gold dragon, majestic, powerful, and furious. Gasps rang out across the battlefield. Therion, their mysterious ally, had revealed his true form, and the sky erupted with fire. Therion's golden wings stretched wide, their span blotting out the smoky sky as his transformation completed. The air around him shimmered with celestial heat. Gone was the silent warrior. Before them now stood a living legend, an ancient gold dragon. The undead dragon screeched in defiance and launched itself into the air, claws outstretched, breath weapons seething with death. But Therion was faster. With a single powerful beat of his wings, he met the creature mid-air. Their clash shook the heavens. Andrea stood at the edge of the battlefield, the sphere of Varniel burning bright in her hands. "It's happening," she breathed. "He's tipping the balance." The golden dragon raked its claws across the undead beast's ribs, tearing through bone and decay. But the abomination fought back, its cursed heart pulsing, its talons tearing gouges in Therion's scales. On the ground, the army of Vector surged again. Catlin and Larry rallied the soldiers, pushing forward through the flood of skeletons and ghouls. Bucky charged a line of wights, shouting, "He's up there doing his part. Let's do ours." Above, the battle between dragons reached a crescendo. Therion spiraled around the undead worm, dodging a blast of necrotic breath, then unleashed a cone of divine fire, bathing the undead beast in pure golden flame. The creature screamed, its wings igniting, bones cracking. But it didn't fall. It surged upward, its massive jaws snapping shut on Therion's wing, dragging him down. They plummeted toward the battlefield. "Move!" Larry roared, dragging Andrea out of the way. The dragons crashed into the earth, flattening a score of undead in the blast. Dust and fire erupted, masking the battlefield in chaos. Therion emerged from the crater, bleeding but alive. The undead dragon rose slowly, half of its skull missing, smoke pouring from its cracked ribs. Andrea clutched the sphere and stepped forward. "Now," she said, "we end it." Channeling the sphere's power, she called on every fragment of light within it. It floated from her palms, rising above the battlefield like a second sun. "Varniel," she whispered, "let this light destroy what darkness made." A beam of radiant energy shot from the sphere, striking the undead dragon directly in its chest. The cursed heart within shattered like glass. The creature froze, then exploded in a burst of light and shadow, its scream silenced forever. The blast rippled across the battlefield, vaporizing undead, disarming banshees, and causing Vector's front lines to falter for the first time. Silence fell. Then, cheering. From every corner of the resistance, a cry of hope. They had destroyed Vector's champion. Therion shifted back into humanoid form, staggering slightly as he returned to the others. "You did it," Andrea said. "We did it," he corrected, but his eyes darkened as he looked toward the fortress. "Vector will not wait any longer. He will come for us himself now." Larry slammed his sword into the dirt. "Then we'll be ready." Andrea lifted the sphere again. "We face him together." The night fell unnaturally fast over the battlefield. The fires from the undead dragon's destruction flickered in the distance, casting long shadows across the shattered field. The resistance had pulled back to regroup, their dead buried, their wounded tended, but no one rested. The sphere of Varniel hovered above the camp, now fixed in the sky like a second moon, its light warding off the corruption that still clung to the land. Yet everyone knew the silence wouldn't last. Not this time. Andrea stood with Therion atop a ridge overlooking the field. Below, Catlin prayed with the soldiers. Bucky cleaned his axe methodically, and Larry walked the perimeter like a restless wolf. "He's coming," Therion said quietly. Andrea nodded. "I feel it too, like the world's holding its breath." Suddenly the air turned cold, the ground trembled, and the wind stopped. A crack split the sky, and Vector arrived. A tear in reality opened above the battlefield, black lightning spilling from the rift. A wave of necrotic energy rolled across the field, extinguishing every fire in an instant. From the rift descended a figure cloaked in shadows, hovering inches above the earth. His skeletal face was hidden beneath a jagged iron crown, his robes whispering like wind through dead leaves. In his right hand, he held a staff crowned with a pulsing crystal of black flame. Vector, the Lich Lord of Kleavin, had come. Soldiers fell to their knees in terror. The very ground beneath him withered and blackened with every step. "Your struggle ends here," Vector said, his voice echoing inside their minds. "Give me the sphere, and I will grant your deaths the mercy of swiftness." "No," Andrea said, stepping forward. The sphere hovered to her hand, glowing like the sun. Vector's empty eye sockets flared with violet fire. "So be it." With a gesture, dozens of skeletal hands erupted from the earth, dragging screaming warriors into the ground. The resistance responded, charging forward. Catlin unleashed radiant blasts of light. Larry and Bucky carved through the undead with ferocity. Andrea and Vector clashed at the center. His spells were unlike anything she had ever faced. Walls of screaming souls deflected her fireballs. Chains of bone and shadow lashed out to bind her limbs. But the sphere pushed back, countering his darkness with waves of burning light. Therion transformed again, rising into the air in his golden dragon form. He crashed into Vector from above, driving the Lich back with tooth and flame. But Vector rose again. "You cannot destroy me," he said. "I am the end. I am eternity." Andrea gritted her teeth. "Not while I live." And as the battle raged on, the very land around them cracked, twisted and warped. The final storm had begun. The battlefield became a storm of chaos. Light and shadow clashed. Screaming steel met howling magic, and the air was filled with the cries of both the dying and the defiant. At the heart of it, Andrea faced Vector. Magic against magic, will against will. Lightning tore the sky. The ground split beneath them. Vector raised his staff again. "You fight the inevitable!" he roared, sending a wave of shadow crashing forward. Andrea gritted her teeth and thrust the sphere of Varniel forward. "Then let fate be rewritten!" The sphere answered, releasing a pulse of pure light that shattered the wave of darkness and sent Vector stumbling back. His skeletal frame cracked, but the Lich laughed. "Good," he rasped. "Now I no longer have to hold back." Suddenly, the sky split open again, and from it rained his elite. The Dreadbound, armored wights with wings of shadow and swords laced with soul fire. They fell upon the resistance like blades from the heavens. Catlin raised her holy symbol, calling on divine fury to push them back, even as her robes burned from cursed strikes. "We must hold the line!" Bucky, bloodied but unbroken, roared and leapt onto the back of a Dreadbound, burying his axe in its skull. "Come on, then!" Larry fought beside him, cleaving through the undead with every ounce of strength he had left. "If we fall fighting." High above, Therion circled in his golden dragon form, unleashing roaring torrents of flame that scorched the sky. He collided with Vector midair, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. But Vector was no longer just the Lich King. He had drawn upon forbidden power, and beneath his shattered form, a dark shape began to grow. Andrea looked on in horror as Vector began to ascend, becoming something more than undead, more than Lich. His flesh dissolved into shadow, his crown burned with starfire, and his body grew into a spectral giant, arms stretching wide as if to engulf the entire battlefield. "Now you will see oblivion," he whispered. The light of the sphere flickered. Andrea stumbled. "No, not now." Catlin, bleeding and nearly spent, reached her. "You're not alone. Use us." Andrea's eyes widened. "What?" Therion, still battling above, roared down. "The sphere can only defeat him with unity. Channel us. All of us." Bucky placed a bloody hand on Andrea's shoulder. "Let's end this." Larry raised his blade, resting it beside the sphere. "Time to finish what we started." Catlin whispered a prayer and placed her hands over Andrea's. The sphere pulsed, then surged. Power flooded Andrea. Memories, strength. The hearts of her companions poured into the sphere. The ground lifted beneath her feet as she rose into the air, golden light wrapping around her body like armor. "Vector!" she cried. The Lich King turned his hollow eyes toward her, and Andrea unleashed the light. A beam of absolute radiance, forged from unity, sacrifice, courage, and hope, exploded from the sphere. It struck Vector's colossal form. He screamed, not in pain, but in fear. "No, this cannot be. I am eternal." His words were silenced as his body cracked, shattered, and then was consumed entirely by the light. The sky broke open, the clouds vanished, and silence fell. Then, cheers, tears. The war was over. Andrea collapsed into Catlin's arms, the sphere dimming but still warm in her hand. Larry sheathed his sword, shaking. Bucky laughed through tears. "We actually did it." Above them, Therion circled once, then descended in his golden form. When he landed, he bowed his head to Andrea. "You have saved this world." Andrea, exhausted, smiled faintly. "No, we did."